Well, let me get us over here on our main screen. I did a test live earlier today and wasn't on but like 3 or 4 minutes tested it, and heck, had like a dozen and a half people that had already logged in and were actually commenting on a test
Huh.
live. Yeah, so it was
Well,
pretty cool.
well, how about that? I guess there was somebody paying attention that Bossier Watch was live during the middle of the day.
Yeah, and I just got my notification that YouTube says we're live, and I'm going to do my normal thing and double check Facebook. Yeah, I just got my Facebook notification. We're on the cutting
Yeah,
edge tonight.
yeah, I see us. We're cutting the edge, but there's a lot of cutting going on. I saw that there's a mayoral candidate got cut in Shreveport.
Yeah, and he got his panties in a wad about it too. No offense to the ladies that watch.
Well, I'm just wondering if you had to guess, what would you guess would be his fallback to him being cut? What would he blame it on?
Well, he would play. There's a certain credit, or I guess you could consider it an actual debit card, depending on which way you look at it, that he played at a press conference. He just whipped that card right out of his wallet and then stomped off. But we'll take a
Are you
look at that
meaning
as
like
well.
a card in a poker game? Like, is that what you're saying?
No,
Like a card?
no,
You're talking
well,
about
no,
you're
it's
talking about like
more,
a credit card.
yeah, it's more like an expenditure card. You can only expend it so many times before it becomes completely useless. Anyway, so,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
let me.
okay. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that. Hey, I'm wondering too. ha- Has your automobile insurance went down?
I can't say that mine has. One of the things that I was going to do, but I didn't have time before the show, was go back and check my premiums and track them over the last 2 years, because I certainly don't remember seeing a decrease. Matter of fact, I think I've had a little bit of an increase, even though I don't have any claims against mine. Um, and I know, well, my boat insurance did go down slightly, but that's because if you go, a certain amount of time with no claims, they give you a reduction, in premium. So certainly wasn't anything that our benevolent overlords in Baton Rouge did.
Well, what about all these politicians that promise that, we're going to get your insurance down? You need to do this to make your insurance go down, or you need to do that to make your insurance go down. I'm wondering about that a little bit tonight.
Yeah, well, I think, might be kind of lies. I don't know. We'll see. Hey, I just did wow, this is cool. So the new kind of squirrel, so the new version of the software that we run that makes all this stuff look cool. So if I comment now in the regular commenting thing, it sends it to both streams. That's actually awesome. Huh,
That
interesting.
is.
Yeah. Well,
Hello, 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 Betty Mitchell and Robin Simmons. And I see the Dillinghams are in the house tonight. Thank y'all for showing up early and commenting. David Bond, hello.
awesomeness. So I'm gonna say, yeah, hello, and David Bond's comment came in from the YouTube stream, and you were able to see it, so that's really good. Okay, so we're off to a good start so far. If it crashes,
Yeah.
folks, we'll go back live or something. So anyway, we're on the bleeding edge of technology. Speaking of that, we've got a lot to talk about, with the Perkins ordeal and with the insure. We're going to start down the path of insurance, and we even have some happenings or tidbits, as I think I called them in the notes, about our local First Church.
No, we haven't talked about First Church in a while. So we've got an update on First Church.
Well,
We didn't even advertise that.
yeah, I don't know about an update per se, but just some musings that have been going on. And so we want to know if anybody has heard or seen or can verify any of this. So we'll talk some more about that here.
Hey, I'm just wondering how many people play golf? You play golf, Rex? You ever done it?
Yeah, I used to play golf a lot. As a matter of fact,
You
I
ever,
tried out for the high school golf team, but it got in the way of fishing. But I hadn't played in
have
a
you
while.
ever have you ever did the top golf thing? You familiar with that?
Yes, I'm very familiar with Top Golf. Not, well, I wouldn't say very. I
Oh.
played Top Golf twice, which is pretty cool.
But
But you
but
got to
are you
drive to like Dallas or somewhere to go do Top Golf.
That's right, and that was going to be my next question. Are you familiar with Top Golf in Bossier City?
Did I miss seeing great big high, you know, well, I guess what do they use? Mesh fences or whatever somewhere? Have I just not seen those? I mean, it's not
Well,
like you can miss the thing.
well, let me go on and use those legalese terms. Allegedly,
Oh,
there's a story here, and we're going to go there. And it's kind of like the first church thing. There's some sources say and allegedly terminology that we're going to have to plug in here. So, but yeah, we need to talk about Top Golf in Bossier City. And,
well, now
you know,
wait a minute. There's another rumor that's been flying around about, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit about Ruston. It's over there on Ruston Ranch. And this has come up many times about a Bucky's of all things coming into Ruston. And so far, no go on that. Is this going to be like Bucky's in Ruston? Top Golf in Bossier is just a, you know, rumor mill in the wind?
I don't know. I haven't heard the one about the Bucky's in Ruston. I mean, is that going to be on the tech campus or what? I don't know.
Where they're going to put the Bucky's. If they do, we'll be over there probably once a week back and forth, I'm sure, my wife.
Probably so, but there's some big names attached to this Top Golf thing, and apparently there's a cog in the wheel in the deal, and
No
you're not
way.
going to believe the people that watch our show are just going to have. They're not going to believe who is allegedly the cog in the wheel of a Top Golf coming to Bossier City.
Hmm. That could be interesting. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's get our countdown out of the way. We're about 6 minutes in. That'll give us 2.5, 3 minutes. That puts us in the ideal range for Facebook and YouTubers to get the notification. Folks, we'll be back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes, and we're going to get right in the middle of all these topics and I don't know, whatever else we think about.
If you like golf, tag a golf buddy.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear the new information about First Church and you know somebody that's important to, you might text them, you might tag them and tell them, hey, it's time to get on. They're
Yeah.
fixing to break loose with something. We don't know what, but they got something coming.
And we're going to have quotes from Seabiscuit. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, folks, we will be back in about 2.5, 3 minutes. Tag your friends, get them in here, grab you some popcorn, a good stiff drink, or whatever. We will be right back.
They feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
Cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. We made it through another intro.
Looking at these comments, man, y'all are on fire tonight. Tim Mueller even jumps in. He said, finally, an evening to watch for a bit. And he says, go straight to Perkins! Exclamation point.
We'll get there soon enough. Won't be long. Hey, I do want to mention, though, because I was just sharing the show out in the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou Facebook group. And so we did want to mention that there is an interesting, or, well, a lot of folks may find it interesting, lawsuit apparently that starts tomorrow up in Benton.
That's right.
And
Isn't one of those Cypress Mafia lawsuits going on? You know, the thugs up there putting their thumb on the citizens around the lake. One of them happening, something like that.
That would be correct. I believe it is the lawsuit of the Cypress District versus, or vice versa, whichever way it is. Anyway, David and Renee Hall and their property issue. So if you want to see how your tax dollars are spent with a Caddo Parish law firm, head right on up to Benton. Word has it that the public, is invited under normal court proceedings and rules and however all that works. You got to go in there and be polite. All that sort of thing, but you can go up there and see that. We hadn't talked about the Cypress District that much lately, but they are still definitely on our radar.
Yeah, I mean, and folks, you really should go. I mean, it's just like the elections. It's just like folks stepping up and running for office. I mean, when you've got situations like this that's taking place with the halls, I mean, yeah, you may not even know the halls, but this is a government body essentially going after individuals. This could be you, and you sitting in the audience or listening, is a measure of accountability. I mean, that judge has to run for reelection, and we're not saying that he should rule on the case one way or the other or trying to steer anything. That's not our intent. In fact, I mean, there's been an attempt to steer conversation about the subject matter, by legal professionals. But what I would say is you taking an interest and paying attention, that is a measure of accountability in itself. Just simply being present and listening and showing that you're paying attention. That is a
That's
measure of
true.
accountability. It is.
Now, the only problem for me is the last one of these that I went up there with the Ayers law firm, involving the Cypress District, they pulled a little lawyer fast one and had me sequestered outside. So I couldn't even watch the proceedings.
Yeah,
Lee Ayers himself didn't want me in there watching for I don't know. It's not like I was going to live stream it, but
well, a lot of folks may be surprised to know Robert Berry in a Cypress District meeting expressed on video how confident he was that the judges would see things his way. And you know what? I think for the most part up to this point, for some reason, he's been right. All the judges seem to always just go his way. It's funny how he always comes out on top.
Yes, it is very interesting. Speaking of that, do we want to make our lawyer pitch now, or shall we wait?
I don't know. We can go ahead and do that. I mean, are you talking about the public corruption? Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
we've mentioned it a few times now, more than once.
in previous shows, we talked about that we had evidence. We talked about that we even had video, and we asked for an attorney
Right.
that cared about uh, you know uprooting public corruption and seeing to it that the rule of law existed. Well, Rex, I'm just curious, have we gotten any bites? Have you gotten any bites? Has there been any bites from attorneys to pursue this and to help?
Zero. And that's not this whatever symbol everybody gets so upset. That's a zero, folks. Zero. Well, I take that back. That's not entirely correct. I have had a couple of text messages from more than one individual alluding that they might know an attorney that's out of parish and out of this area that may help us. But, I don't know. That really hadn't gone anywhere. So essentially, no.
So there's no people who are officers of the court that are defenders of the rule of law who are willing to step up and try to pursue. And so I guess we got to chum the water up a little bit more.
Maybe so. Maybe some of those attorneys are on the list of information. Maybe that's why they don't want to step up.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're worried or scared that they may come up on the list. Well, I got another one. You know what, Rex? I've been thinking about this thing, and I'm no attorney. I mean, I may be a Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville, but I'm not an attorney, so that puts me down lower than, the legal profession. But hey, I had a thought. I think that this thing could probably end up being a class action lawsuit. Have you thought about that?
That would be interesting. I mean, I only pretend like I'm a lawyer on Facebook every once in a while, so I don't know how all the class action stuff really works either, but that's a strong possibility so that it wouldn't have to be one individual against a Caddo Parish law firm, or whoever would take the case and defend certain people. I don't know. So, yeah, that may make it easier for certain folks.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, I'm dying for this thing to get rolling and some attorney with a spine to step up and take this deal and run with it. Because I think it's going to be a pretty amazing thing to see the names that pop up there. I think this could probably make or break a lot of people.
I think you're right, but that remains to be seen. We'll just have to wait and see if anybody wants to step up to the plate. All right, so let me log into my router and prioritize our connection with quality of service and bandwidth, so that'll help us a little bit with the new system. Okay, but I digress back into the technical side of things again. So I mean, the insurance reform is going to take a few minutes because we're going to do a semi-deep dive into that. Shall we just go right on into Perkins and his panties in a wad?
I think we should. I mean, there's 107 people watching, and I'm just wondering, are y'all wanting to hear about Perkins and Shreveport and him being booted out from running for mayor? Or do you want to hear about insurance and Seabiscuit and Ryan Gaddy and history and a walk down memory lane? What do y'all want to hear about?
Yeah, or the Wild West with our local trail rides that seem to keep happening. I mean, what do y'all want to talk about first? Let us know in the comments.
Are you interested in golf, Top Golf, or the Top Golf that's not coming to Bossier as we speak, and
Yeah,
why?
Let me add that to the list so we don't forget about that. I'm intrigued by the Top Golf deal here. So,
Well, David Womack. It looks like Perkins is that seems to be the popular thing. Everybody's like typing in Perkins first. Perkins first. Perkins is appealing.
Yeah, Perkins is in the lead. All right, well, let me get the screens set up here. So give me just a second, folks. Bear with me. Let's see. Perkins. All right, so unfortunately, I don't have the deal queued up right now about the disqualification of Perkins, but for those of you that have not been or haven't paid attention to the news today and yesterday, or the last few days, anyway, there was a lawsuit filed against the Perkins campaign that he put the incorrect address on his qualifying information when he qualified to run for re-election. And now correct me if I'm wrong, Duke, but basically the law says that you have to use the same address that used for homestead exemption if you're qualifying as a candidate. Perkins apparently, not apparently, I mean, it's on the form. Perkins used a different address, which violates, whatever statute it is, and somebody filed suit against that, and Perkins lost. I mean, to me, the law is pretty clear on it, but he didn't like that so much. Did you see the press deal that he did out
I
in
didn't
Shreveport?
see it. I didn't see it, but I'm just wondering. I got an idea of what he claimed was the motivation behind the fight over his candidacy. I'm wondering, what do y'all think? What do y'all think the charge that he made was the reason why that he was being opposed? Why do y'all think?
Oh yeah, because you're fixing to hear it. So yeah, before I hit play here, yeah, what do y'all think he used? What do you think Perkins used as the excuse and reason that all this happened? Janet Lindsay, let me put this up. Now that's partially correct. Janet Lindsay
Great comments,
says,
guys.
"Oh yeah, holy crap, I can't keep up with them." Janet Lindsay says he was distracted by the media and cameras. I think that's actually in the court proceedings. And that's coming in from Facebook. We got several people coming in from Facebook tonight. That's pretty cool. Tim Euler says he claims the lights. Okay, yeah. Let's see what else. Mike Cummings Jr. racist. Well, that's coming up too. Miss Ann Price says, "What about Tarver? No one challenged him." I'm guessing, Miss Ann, either they're not smart enough to have filed a lawsuit, or maybe he used the correct address. I don't know. Let's see. Let me scroll up through these. So help me out here, Duke.
Yeah, there was one. It's already done rolled up. Go ahead.
Wade Love, our good friend Wade Lovelace says voter suppression. That's of course correct, Mr. Lovelace. Just imagine that. Let's see. Did Tarver bring the suit? Now, it's alleged that Tarver brought the suit. I don't know that for sure. I hadn't seen any definitive proof, but might have been one of his friends.
May have. Let's go ahead and roll the video. So if
here we go.
folks that haven't seen it, let's watch it. Care of KSLA here.
Yeah, and I think we get to skip their ads. If it plays the ads, I'll mute it for a second. But anyway, fire in the hole. Here we go.
And breaking right now at 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching. I'm Doug Warner. Any moment now, we're expecting to hear from Shreveport Mayor Adrian Perkins, just hours after learning he's been disqualified for running for re-election.
Like Doug Warner, his Facebook
He's at the
page
podium
is
now.
great.
Let's take a listen.
Shreveport that won election overwhelmingly, who grew up in Shreveport, who lives in Shreveport, who votes in Shreveport from seeking re-election. They are trying to deprive you, our citizens, of your rights, your constitutional rights that I served our country and I fought to protect.
Oop, there it is.
Now let's be clear. My opponents have ran several polls. In all of those polls, I am the most likely candidate to win this fall. This is nothing more than a desperate attempt by them to undermine our democratic process, to steal your voice, to steal your vote. My campaign team is going to appeal immediately. The voters should decide elections. My lawyers are going to fight for our democracy. As far as my administration goes, we're going to continue to do the work. On early next week, we get to announce something that...
Now, I want to pause it there for a second because we've got to watch this last part. But so I think the voters are still going to get to choose who's mayor, correct? That wasn't part of the lawsuit, right?
Yeah, I don't think they cut the voters out. I think they're only cutting him out is what's happening here. And I mean, I'm just wondering, does he not know the law? Did he not know that he had to live where he said that he lived? And then if he put that he lived somewhere else on his application to qualify, that would disqualify him? I think the document even quotes the law on there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you're correct.
Is he saying we don't need to follow the law?
Or is he saying
saying?
His administration is proving its incompetence, that he can't even fill out a form correctly? And then he wants to turn around and first blame it on lights, camera, action, the media, social media, everybody else. But now he's playing the race card, and the voter suppression card. It's not suppressing anybody's votes. You can
Okay, well,
run
let's hear it.
next
Let's
go
hear
around,
that.
Adrian. Yeah, here we go. All right, now this is great, folks. So y'all got to pay attention to this. Here we go.
That we have been preparing for 3 years. Something that's going to benefit thousands of Shreveporters. That's going to change the trajectory and put Shreveport on a trajectory that we hadn't seen for years. So we're going to continue to do the work. I want to thank all the citizens for the outpouring of support, the calls, the texts, the social media support. Thank you so much. We're going to continue to fight for you, and we're going to continue moving Shreveport forward.
This is
Thank
great.
Mr. Mayor, you haven't answered as to why that. Mr. Mayor, if you're going to address this, you got to answer questions. You're walking away calling this a political stunt, but the lawsuit threw you out. Do you want to be a politician, or do you want to run for office?
He's out of there.
He's gone.
He's out of there.
I mean, that's the best part of the whole thing.
It is. I mean, come on now. So he jumps up there, and I hate to be rude, but I mean,
he blamed everybody but himself.
You blamed everybody but yourself. How does he do that? And then he walks away and won't even take questions?
He's following the standard Democratic cue card. Sorry to our Democratic and liberal friends that actually do watch our show sometimes. But if you get up to the mic, you can just say whatever you want, and it must be true. And look, Republicans do that as well. We'll see in some of this insurance stuff.
How can he suggest that this is, racist, or this is whatever it is? How can he suggest that when it isn't accurate that the majority of the other candidates in the race are,
the
minorities?
The key
So how
word
can he
is
say that?
the key word.
Did Alan
is it's a
Seaball
dog.
file the suit or something?
Well, look, Perkins didn't directly use the word racism. He used suppression, which, as we all know, is a dog whistle for it must have been them racist white folks trying to get him out of there. But correct me if I'm wrong, not all the candidates are white.
No, and that's what I said. I think the majority of all the other candidates in the race are African American or minorities, whatever. So
except for Arsenault. Arsenault's pretty lily white.
Yeah.
We all have a little mixture, so that's fine.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, how can he make that claim? How can he make that suggestion? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that will work in Shreveport. If that works in Shreveport, Shreveport's got a whole lot more problems than just the crime that's going on. I mean,
no doubt.
We have let reality escape the building, is what I would say.
Right. Well, I don't know. We'll see how this turns out. They're going to appeal it, but there was another case out of I think Monroe or whichever district's in Monroe. Same type of situation, and that one was appealed and I think went to the Supreme Court and lost in both cases. So he might have a shot at appealing this, but I don't think so.
As fate would have it, it just so happens in the notes I've got a link to the actual case, and the truth of the matter is Jeff Cox actually wrote the majority opinion in that case.
Oh, let me see if I can get that pulled up real quick just so we have it in the background. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And for everybody watching, now I haven't read the case, but what I'm told is the case was exactly the same situation as this one right here. So the odds of his attorneys filing suit, or appealing and getting a different result than a case that has already been heard in the same manner, in the same form, I don't know how it's going to happen. So I think this is going to hold, and I think, Perkins is out of the race. I think you've got a 9-man race now, or 9-person race now.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a dumb move. Here's a copy of that deal. Let's see here. This was appealed from 4th JDC. All right, so this was Michael M. Seller, plaintiff versus Donald Don Nance et al. As the defendant. So if you want to go read that, you can look that up. Look, yeah, I think he's, might be the first person in history. Well, he's probably not the first person to actually disqualify himself, but he's probably the first person to disqualify himself and then blame it on lights, camera, action, race card suppression.
Now I got to tell you, Rex, you're like me, and being a politico or someone who follows politics, and we look for the things that aren't always obvious. And I got to tell you, it makes me scratch my head. Was this a head fake? What was this really and truly an accident, or was this a planned self sabotage?
Hmm. That, you know, political deals do happen in back
I mean,
rooms.
you better believe it. They do. You better believe it. So the question becomes, who benefits the most from his exit from the race?
Hmm. Hmm. I'm not going to
Is it
name any names, but it could be
is it
Arsenault, but it could be Tarver.
it could be Arsenault, it could be Tarver, could be Levette Fuller. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
That's interesting.
Now,
I
Kaylee Larkin says to save himself from embarrassment. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all, because if at this point, with the increase in crime and the direction that the city is going in, I mean, if you're not embarrassed already, I mean, how are you? I don't know. I don't agree with that.
Hmm.
If he was
Well,
embarrassed, he would have. Go ahead.
let's remember this. He absolutely used the mayor's office of Shreveport as a stepping stone to try to almost immediately get into the Senate. Of course, he slipped up and fell on that little stepping stone and rock. So it would make sense that this was a backroom deal. You know, in the old days, it was guys with cigars and wearing Leisure Suit Larry suits or whatever back in back rooms that made these kind of deals. So maybe there's some merit to that. We'll have to see.
Well, maybe it's that. I mean, he did. Wasn't there? I mean, a lot of folks watching. I mean, did I understand correctly or not that there was some kind of appointment, a DC appointment under the current administration that was available, or he was seeking or trying? Isn't that out there? Does anybody know about that?
Yeah, this is an interesting angle to take a look at. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on this. So, yeah, and comments are flying in. David Womack says, I do not believe his ego would allow that. Our good friend Chris Crackman said he was going to have a spanking in November that he had coming, so he's trying to avoid that. Maybe so, but there's always another angle, and that old saying is always true: follow the money.
Now, hey, on another note, so everybody watching or who was watching, it was the last show or the show before. Now, y'all know Seabiscuit got all wound up and went on his Facebook page and made like a big spectacle. And it was especially after we reported an image that was sent to us of the Caddo Parish Republican meeting over there, and it showed Tarver, Barrow
Oh yeah,
Peacock,
yeah.
and Seabiscuit all sitting at a table.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, he was all upset, all in a fluster about that.
now, oh yeah, he was bent. He was bent, and kind of some rumors out there and stuff. Well, interestingly, we had reported that there was some innuendo that Barrow Peacock was seeking to potentially be the CAO for Tarver, that he was bucking for that position or whatever.
Right.
Well, I'm just wondering who all saw that Barrow Peacock made an endorsement in the mayor's race.
Yeah. And it certainly wasn't for Perkins.
It wasn't a Republican either.
Right. And
So,
like we showed, he was sitting at that same table right there.
Now Seabiscuit lost his mind that there's nothing going on at that Republican meeting with a Democrat senator sitting at a Republican meeting with a Republican state senator and a Republican state representative, but yet all of a sudden there's an endorsement by a Republican state senator who's term limited for Tarver.
Yeah. Funny how this politics works. That is correct, Miss Kara. Barrow endorsed a non-Republican. And some would argue that Barrow was a rhino, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so, and he's term limited out as far as a senator, so really he would either have to drop down to trying to run to be a rep in whatever district, or he'd have to move up and trying to unseat, he who walketh on water and hath the silvery tongue. That's almost impossible. So what other what other direction does he have to go?
Well, I don't know. I would love to have a personal conversation with Barrow about that. I'd love to hear his side of the story as to why he thought that was the right move. But you know what? He's not the only Republican that has supported Democrats before, because
It's true.
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that state representative that was sitting at that table once took a walk on the wild side and endorsed a Democrat over a Republican. And I also know that, we had a state senator in Bossier that endorsed a Democrat for governor over a Republican.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time that it's ever happened.
No, it's certainly not the first time. I think the key difference is that Mr. Purple, former senator, with the Purple District, he doesn't shy away from the fact that he and John Bell are big buddies, and I guess they were in college together and blah, 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 blah. The other difference that I see is that some of these other Republicans, they try to forget some of the things that they've done and said. So,
yeah, it's like they kind of try to take that eraser and kind of blur it out to where you don't see it. But you're right. The Purple senator, he didn't ever hide about it. He was straightforward out in front. You got to give him credit for that.
Give him credit where it's due and credit where it's no credit where it isn't due. Anyway, whatever. I digress. Again. Okay. So that's what we know right now about the mayor's race and what we speculate and have heard, besides the fact that he stomped off from the press release, which was just great entertainment.
So I wonder, where from here do folks want to go? Do you want to hear about insurance? Do you want to hear about Top Golf? Or do you want to hear a little bit on First Church? Or I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering, where do we go from here?
There's
What's the
130 people. I mean, the only time we break triple digits generally is if we mention that church. That I guess if we mention it 3 times in a row, again, it'll be like Beetlejuice. Maybe Brad Jerkovich will actually show up here on the show.
But you know what? I mean, look, we were pushing 100 before we mentioned First Church, and so I don't know that that's the main thing, but that is an unending saga, and it isn't like on this deal we've got like a ton of information to pour out there on First Church.
Well, the comments are making it clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, the truth is we've got some stuff that we need to ask some of our viewers that may know. So let me get the screen switched around over here. I got to get Twitter up on the feed and make sure this comes up like it's supposed to. So bear with me for just a second, folks. We'll go ahead and get First Church up on the deal. All right, let's see. I think this should work here. Okay, so I'm switching screens. I'm going to try to resize this a little bit while we're talking here, and let's see if I can make this happen. So what I've got pulled up here is our Twitter account, and we are a Twitter follower of the SBC Pantologist on Twitter, who frequently raises some very interesting information about First Church and Jerkovich, among other things. So we wanted to share some of this out with y'all in case y'all aren't following. Now, I also have to say that the SBC Pantologist does have some of these, does have his Twitter feed locked. So, Bossier Watch may get booted out of being able to follow his feed. So apparently, this person has caught some flack from the Jerkovich camp or whoever before, and so they felt the need to lock those posts. You have to follow, and he has to approve to be able to see these posts. So we may lose access to it through Bossier Watch. But anyway, here's the deal. It says, his post from July the 27th, or tweet from July the 27th says, and this is anonymous, so we're just throwing this out there and asking if anybody that is a current member of First Church knows anything about this. It says, word on the street is a shredding company made a visit to the church during the week that the staff was given off. Point. Hundreds of churches shred things every day. It needs to be done. But when your pastor is this shady, people notice when the shredders show up. So I guess the question is, does anybody know if these shredders were here, or not here, but at First Church as part of the normal process? Was it a normal appointment or something else going on?
I don't know, David Womack. Is that his real name, or are y'all poking fun of him?
Well, let's be clear. That would be whoever account this is. That would be his, or could be her, Twitter handle. So, I'm not going to say that it's an anonymous account because Twitter's not really completely anonymous. You could be pretty darn anonymous on Twitter. But anyway, yeah, that's the real Twitter handle. It's at SBC Paleontologist.
So all of the staff is like gone for the week, and while they're gone, all of a sudden shredding trucks show up and apparently start shredding stuff, right?
Yes, that is what is alleged. Now, again, to be clear, we don't know this for a fact. We're reaching out to our community of followers and watchers to verify this, or let us know if no, that never happened. But I'd also like to point out this July the 13th tweet that says, I think we are all aware when you see a church staff comprised primarily of family members, it is evidence of serious issues. Problem. People who are in pursuit of Jesus will not work for you because they are not in it for the money and are not deceived by you. And the answer is hire family.
On another note, interestingly, Rex, I didn't share this with you, but I will share it with you now and with everybody else. I did have a reporter who was at the Southern Baptist Convention this year that was sitting at the table with Paige Patterson, who had an interesting conversation with him, reached out to me this week. And we are trying to we're trying to get together and share some notes that we may have for a future show. And if a lot of folks may not remember or know who Paige Patterson is, but Paige Patterson is the guy who was over there at the seminary college who took a lot of the donors and or moved the money over to a private deal and ended up being a lawsuit. He was removed from the seminary college, and within a short period of time of a lot of money, I can't remember, what was it, $1 million?
Yeah, I want to say it was a couple of million, but yeah, it was well into the seven figures.
Yeah, all of a sudden, the first Bossier pastor, Brad Jerkovich, was named to be on the board of directors.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. We may have to go back and cover all that again.
Yeah, we may have to review it. And look, to be clear, folks, this is not anything that Duke and I have against a particular church. The primary reason that we bring up anything about First Church and Pastor Brad is because of the very close ties that church has with politicians, politics, and, pretty much having politics on the stage, and that is the problem to us. Other than that, the rest of it would be between the church members.
And look, I've made no bones about it. I think the problem has been the politicization of the church. I think it's become a show, and some politicians have made great use of it. Point in fact, Mike Johnson. He's used the church effectively. It has gotten him a lot of place.
Sure.
I'm not questioning whether he's a Christian. I'm not questioning him at all. But what I don't agree with is the politics in the church. And he can say he doesn't politic in church, but you tell me when David Vitter, Bill Cassidy, and a ton of politicians are all sitting in a room with the pastor at the biggest church in the parish, what do you think they're talking about? Why do
Right.
you think they're all there?
Hint, they're not always reading Bible verses and talking about Jesus and the disciples. Hint, hint.
So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
where is the future? I sent you a link, Rex, here not long ago, and I want to share it. It's a
Yeah.
heck of a book. All right, I just put it in the notes, but
All right, let me switch screens here so I can go look at the notes. So, folks, the main thing there is, um, if you are still a current member of First Church, let us know, is some of that information true or not. There's also a couple of tweets there about the drastic decline in membership, as well as Sunday school classes and youth groups and all that. We honestly hate to see that with any church, but you know, based on some of the stuff that's been going on over there, apparently, and based on lawsuits that have been filed, as well as information in those suits, and the way that Brad's apparently running things, maybe some changes will happen. Now, Brian Armas says it's not true, so good. So their membership's back on track, and everything's on. They're growing as a church. That's good to hear, Brian.
yeah, well, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of former members who might take issue with that. I don't know. I don't go there. Again,
Well,
back to my point. I'm against churchtainment. I don't think
right.
that's the future, and I don't think that's the way. The link that I had shared with you was
Yeah.
from a book. I put it in the notes. It's under the Top Golf thing at the very. Oh, there it is. You got it up.
Well, look, and I'm going to take a little bit, not of an opposite tact from you, but one measure, just one measure of the growth of Christianity and the health of Christianity in an area is the growth or decline of the local churches. That can be the growth or decline of smaller churches, medium-sized churches, or larger churches. And if you see decline in any of those, then that generally indicates, generally speaking, that something is typically wrong in a particular church, which would lead people away from Christ, which would lead to a decline in believers in Christianity and ultimately the calling of all Christians to share the good news. So, to me, it does. I get it with the churchtainment deal. I always go back to Pastor, I think his name was Greg Groeschel out of Oklahoma, who said he would put a Ferris wheel out in front of the church if that's what it took to get somebody in the door to hear the message of Christ. He didn't care, as long as it was legal and not immoral.
That's right, and I have heard that out of other people, even here locally in our community. But the point is, the guy that this Dan White Jr. in this quote here, and this is what caught my attention. He says, "I'm convinced the future of the church is small, simple, slow, and super local." And if you read through that thread, and he wrote this book, and in this book, he talks about how our decline, one of our reasons that he cites for the decline is the rise of the mega churches. These mega churches, First Bossier, you could say is a mega church. Cypress, you could say is a mega church.
Sure.
Not saying bad people. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that when we started going to these building these big churches, that are like castles to keep everybody in, we're losing our way. What this guy articulates is that what we need to get back to is having smaller groups where we meet in people's homes and their garages or what have you. When it gets to a point, that gets to a certain size, you split up, you start having them at somebody else's home.
Yeah.
You split up, you start having them at somebody else's home. That's the way we grow our faith, not by building these big, huge churches and deciding who's in and who's out.
True.
I mean,
but the only thing is, and we're just bantering back and forth for a few minutes about this, folks, is I would hate to lump all mega churches or larger, because a lot of those churches have large outreach programs to have home groups, and a lot of those are done by the larger churches because they realize when they're bulging at the seams, where honestly a lot of smaller churches are not so much into the home groups because they want everybody inside those church doors. Not all smaller churches. Again, I don't want to lump smaller churches in a group too. So what I'm getting at is it's a shame now that we're in the information age. We can share information, including religious information, whatever religion you are, certainly, the good news of Christ. It's at our fingertips, yet we continue to see a decline overall in Christianity, at least and believers, at least in the U.S. To me, it's just a shame.
Yeah. Kaylee Larkin, Six Flags over Jesus. There you go.
That's a good point. I can't argue with that.
Mic drop.
Yeah, bam. Yeah, I got to put that up there. So, yeah, Six Flags over Jesus. You could say that about soccer fields too, I suppose, or Ferris wheels in front of churches too. So, good point there, Kaylee. Good comment. All right.
So where does that leave us? The last show, we didn't even go to Ardoin Unleashed.
No, we didn't.
Did you ever listen to that?
I listened to part of it. I'd have to go back and listen to it again.
It's not that long. Yeah, we should play that. Folks need to hear. If you didn't hear Kyle Ardoin, your Secretary of State, you would be proud of him. I mean, he went off on an interview that he was doing. It's in the notes down.
Let's see here. Yeah, this.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let me get this link popped up. So give me about 15, 20 seconds. Let me get this pulled up here.
And it may pull up an ad or something, and we'll skate through it. But the city of New Orleans and their mayor down there, they were doing some shenanigans with the money down there. And Kyle Ardoin was interviewed, and he was asked something about it. Well, Kyle, he went off in this interview, and he let him have it with what he really thought. And hopefully you're going to be able to hear that here in just a second.
Yeah, give me just a second. I'm getting this pulled up. They got some kind of live on air going. Let me see here. There we go. All right, let me switch screens. And Pat Wiggins, I do see your comment asking about linking Perkins to Landrew. We can look into that. We wouldn't be able to do it tonight, but we'll take a look at that. All right, just a second here, Duke. So let me switch screens again. Let's try this. Is this the audio right here?
Yes.
Minute 52 seconds. Okay. Here we go. Fire in the hole.
We have a municipality that blatantly passes a resolution not stating their opinion, but stating a fact that they plan to violate the law. With each one of the council members having taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of this state, we all took the same oath. We don't have the opportunity to pick and choose what laws we follow. If I did that, we'd have chaos in our elections. Now, I get sued all the time because they want the law changed through the courts. And New Orleans also sued me to try to have ballot boxes all over their parish because they thought that was the law. I refused to do it. That's why they sued me. They dealt with it in the court of law. But I am absolutely sending a message to the city of New Orleans. You took an oath, whether you're the mayor, whether you're the sheriff, or whether you're the council. You don't get to pick and choose which laws are enforced in the state of Louisiana. And whoever has the authority to deal with it should deal with it. And I'm not against sending a message in a P5. I was not going to vote against major projects because I don't want to punish the state of Louisiana and the citizens of Louisiana for an action of a local government. But this is called anarchy. To, as a governmental body, decide you are not going to abide by the laws passed by the state of Louisiana and signed into an act by the governor of the state of Louisiana, in my opinion, they should all be impeached.
Hey, what's up? It's the boys from Bit Season.
And all right.
All right. Now, hold on a second. Now, I appreciate what he's saying there and his intent, but there's an absolute counter argument to that that happens every single day of the week in every single parish, and it's called the DA's office. The DA absolutely has discretion which laws to enforce. As a matter of fact, in many cases, so do the cops. It's illegal to drive over the speed limit, period, end of quote. But officers have discretion. It's illegal when you pass somebody to exceed the existing speed limit, period. Folks, if you don't know, there's no exception in the statutes to exceed the speed limit to pass anybody. But we have law enforcement officers every day who use their discretion on that. So I take issue. I understand his intent, especially concerning elections and all that, but
now,
we do it every day.
He wasn't talking about elections right there. I think he was talking about abortions, and the trigger laws in the city of New Orleans, I think, took the position that they were going to, you know what? Oh, hell no. We're going to go ahead and we're going to kill babies regardless of what the state of Louisiana says, even though we're in the state of Louisiana.
Well, I should have either read the notes or scrolled up a little bit, because you're right. Here in this sentence right here, it says the mayor instructed the NOPD not to investigate any claims of illegal abortions.
So basically, if there's a murder, if the city of New Orleans decides we're not going to investigate and we're not going to prosecute, I get what you're saying. You're right. If the district attorney of Bossier Parish says, hey, you know what, even though you ran over that guy and killed him and smushed him into road pizza and you were drunk, we decided we're not going to investigate. You know what? He's a district attorney. He could do that.
Kind of like taking a district attorney's vehicle and running it off of a bridge in the middle of the night, allegedly drunken. Well, gee, nothing happened, right?
No, I think there was something that happened, but you had a George
$100
Soros
fine.
It was shipped to a George Soros DA in Caddo Parish to actually look at it, and I think he got a slap on the hand. But here's the thing: the guy who wrecked it wasn't even an employee of the district attorney's office.
Right.
So how is that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's kind of like, I'm going to try to make this segue here, but this may not come out the right way. But it's kind of like, is abortion or murder a bigger sin in the eyes of God than lying or stealing?
You know, it's an interesting.
Let's go by scripture.
We were having this debate with me and my wife were having this debate with our kids just the other night. You know what? Sin is sin regardless. It's all sin.
Right.
And
so my point is, because we're a nation based on biblical principles, right? Okay. So just
we were
in theory, yeah. So stay with me for a second though. So if I'm open carrying in the state and my jacket happens to, accidentally I turn the wrong way and my jacket covers my pistol and I get a ticket or arrested or whatever for concealed carry without a permit, all right, should the officer or should the DA be able to use discretion there? In other words, going back to the sin is sin, how do we pick and choose the laws? Don't get me wrong, I am completely against abortion except in very, very, very rare cases for the health of the mother, etc. Okay? So don't get me wrong about that, but I'm just saying here that if you're going to get to pick and choose one set of laws, who determines which set you get to pick and choose?
Well, it goes back to, the laws that are on the books, should be equitably applied and equitably enforced. But the reality is they are not. And you have winners and you have losers. And you know what? Majority of the time, the winners are people connected to the judicial system.
That's
people
true.
who are elected officials, when it comes to the majority of folks who are watching this show, I'm sorry, hold your ears. You guys are all SOL.
Right. Now,
And if
David
you
Jones
don't know
has,
what,
our good friend David Jones has an easy solution. He says, just give me 1 year in the electric chair. A whole year I've got to sit in the electric chair, David? Is that with electricity on or not? Look, I'm going to tie this into fishing, and more specifically, something we've already talked about, noodling catfish. Now, what does Kyle Ardwan's rant there have to do with noodling? Okay, most people think the wrong way about the law. They think the law, and you've heard me rant about this, so I'll keep it short. Most people think that the law gives you the ability to do something. Once people start thinking the other way, the correct way, laws only restrict. You can do anything and only have to answer to God unless there is a law that restricts it. Okay? So, who was it? Jack McFarland got the bill passed to make noodling legal. Literally. That's what he promoted it as. Well, newsflash, Jack, it wasn't illegal before. So your law didn't make it legal. You just added more verbiage on the books. And I understand your intent behind it. But you didn't make it legal. You just added crap to the books. It wasn't illegal before. Therefore, your law didn't make it legal. It was literally legal. All right. So once you start thinking about laws and statutes that way, you think of them as negative. All of them.
We're freaking paying all these guys to go down there to dream up ways to make all these new laws every freaking week, and a lot of them are lawyers.
Well, lawyers are doing what lawyers do, which is muddle up the law. How about that? Unless you need a lawyer and then your best friend. I understand, folks, but still. All right. I think it was McFarland from Winfield, David. I think. We'd have to go back and look that up. You can just, we talked about it. I've got it in the notes somewhere, but you can go look up the noodling law in Louisiana, and I think McFarland's the one that put it up there. It was a big joke, but it's literally on the books now. All right. So anyway, it's a loose tie-in, noodling to abortion, or and all that.
And Jack McFarland's a good guy. He's the head of the conservative party group or whatever, legislators that all got together. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He didn't mean any ill intent about it, but I would argue that he needs to start thinking about laws the correct way. Laws either restrict or they remove a prior restriction. That's it.
Well, what are we going to do? Are we going to go down the golf parkway?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, I just want to mention the trail rides for a second. So, for those of you that hadn't been because we talked about the trail rides and the issues here in Bossier Parish. What was it, 6-8 months ago? I forget when that was. So, and the permitting process and all that. So they recently had, there's a trail ride in East Texas where several people got shot. I think a few people killed. They just had one, a week ago in Webster Parish. As a matter of fact, our good friend David Womack in our comments from one of our Bossier Watch posts thought that it was a family reunion until I showed him who and how they were promoting this. It certainly was not really a family reunion. It was a party. But unfortunately, a couple of people got shot. Apparently, a 17 or 18-year-old high school girl got shot in the back. My question is, what should we do about the trail rides? I'm 100% for less government, which means they shouldn't even have to, as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't have to have a permit to do a trail ride on private property. I'm also 100% pro-gun, so if they want to bring their guns to a trail ride, more power to them. And I hate to say it, but I'm a true believer. If they want to drink alcohol and bring their guns, again, I'm a true believer. Not that I think they mix and not that I would do that. The problem is when they shoot each other and innocent bystanders. If there's two people that want to have a duel like the old days and they both agree to it, whatever. But when
are you saying that if I wanted to invite, and this would make, I can think of a police juryman a police jury woman. I could think of some school board people. I could think of a lot of elected officials who would like this. But if I wanted to invite Jack Kevorkian over to have dinner, I mean, you're saying I should be able to let Jack Kevorkian come over and have dinner with me, right?
Sure. I mean, is he
Yeah.
is he actually still alive or did he die? I mean, if you're going
I
to go
have
dig
no
him up, that would be kind of weird, too. But
I have no idea, but I'm just
But-
saying. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
look, here's the deal: if he's not in jail, if he, even if he was, I forget what all he was convicted of, but if he was convicted, did his time, and got out of jail, you want to have him for dinner? That's on you and Kara. That doesn't mean I'm going to go eat dinner with Jack Kevorkian. But
yeah, I mean,
but if you want to, you know how I am. I don't toe the Republican line because it's all over the place. You know.
that's right. That's right. Well, I find myself being a whole lot, libertarian as well too.
Right.
But and I understand, and I guess it goes to this thing of uh, all these politicians that feel that we have to do something, because
Yeah.
people want to go to a trail ride and they pull a gun and want to go to shooting. Well, you know what? If I go to them trail rides, maybe I understand the risk of going to that trail ride. Maybe I know that there's a high likelihood that that's going to happen. But you know what? I got another question about that trail ride.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, were the rules that were, remember how there were all these rules in Bossier they were talking about putting forward? I wonder if they had the rules in place like that over there at that trail ride.
I don't
And
know.
how
but
did that work out?
Well, hold that thought because I want to point out that your lovely bride says she takes offense to inviting Jack Kevorkian to dinner, as long as it's not the last dinner. And hold that thought because this is interesting too. Wasn't there a permit issued at the conservative get-together out by Houghton a few months back? That's a good question, Paul. I was at that, but I didn't pay attention or even ask if there was a permit issued. I think if I remember right, there was a sheriff's deputy there or was there for a little bit directing traffic, maybe.
Yeah,
But
there
anyway.
there were some deputies on duty and off duty that were
Right.
there, and I do know that the sheriff's office had, ahead of time before the event,
Right.
had either had input or had
Right.
surveyed the whole deal. So there was something to that.
But here's a point about permits, and this goes to whether people should assume their own risk. Would issuing this recent trail ride in Webster Parish that ended up, with a shooting going on, would issuing them a permit have changed that outcome? There were 200,
Well,
250 people there.
Well, let me throw one at you. If I recall correctly, the rules that the parish put forward, remember how we were just advocating? Well, you may not have been. I was advocating that we needed to start having more church social gatherings in smaller formats at people's houses.
Right.
You know what? I think you could easily start falling within those parameters if you started doing that. So
Yeah.
you'd have to start getting permits to have meetings at your homes, church gatherings at your home.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a stretch, folks.
How far do we go here? I mean, look, bottom line,
Well-
I'm with you, Rex. If people want to go to the trail ride and they want to take the risk of being shot by some yahoo that comes to the trail ride, you know what? That life is lifey. I mean, that's part of living. There's that. All
Well,
I'm going to tell you, if I show up, I'm going to be able to return fire. That's what's going to happen if I'm there.
Well, and here's the thing is people, well, yeah, but we need to have safe events. Wrong thinking. I never assume I'm safe, ever. Now, I'm not
Exactly.
paranoid, but again, and my wife will testify, when we go to a restaurant, my back is never facing entrances or exits. Okay? Not because I'm paranoid, because I want to easily see who is coming and going through the likely entrance and exit points so that at least I have an extra second or two to be prepared for anything that might happen because you don't know and you can't ever predict all that. So I never assume I'm safe. Ever.
Holly Gordon, I don't know if Hollywood Gordon, says the town of Cotton Valley was originally against the annual trail ride due to an emergency services access in the town. However, the reunion, aka trail ride, was put on by a certain LSU player's family. So we know the rules were thrown out the window.
Interesting. Let me put that up there, which is probably going to cover both of us up. Yeah, I don't know that for a fact, but we'll take your word for it, Holly. I know I did have it, but it may have been for last week's show notes. I did have the flyer up for that. I think it was Gibson Stables or something like that was, the ones actually putting this particular one on. But it wasn't just a trail ride. And David Womack, to answer your question, most of it's horse. They're riding horses, not. That's absolutely great. A lot of it, they also will allow ATVs and side-by-sides and all that. And again, I'm 1,000% for all of that. But I think the biggest problem is they also have parties and all that afterwards, and of course the associated alcohol. And yes, folks are going to bring guns, and some people don't, they're not responsible apparently, and decide to shoot people, instead of just having it out in a fist fight. And, well, then we end up with it in the news, and they have to remind us constantly that it was not permitted, like having it permitted with 200 and 250 people would have stopped somebody from getting pissed off and shooting somebody.
That's right.
Anyway.
Enough about trail riding. Let's talk about golf. And we're not talking about Donald Trump's new golf thing. Have you followed any of that?
Yeah, with the Saudi Arabia, whatever, LIV golfing or whatever the new tour is that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, the PGA and Donald Trump, and I don't understand all of it, but it's a big mess.
The PGA's mad because it potentially takes away sponsor dollars, et cetera, et cetera. It's potentially taking away players. It's no different than fishing. Fishing has always tried to kind of emulate golf tournaments, except golf is, of course, 10 times bigger than bass fishing anyway. Golf is 10 times bigger than that, so I'm kind of familiar with this. Oh, yeah, but, there's only so much pie in the sponsor dollars, and that's what they're worried about. Then a lot of people, because it's the Saudis and, Saudi backing and all that, and, 17 of the 19 terrorists or whatever that hit 9/11.
This sounds like Bossier City. I mean, there's only so much pie to go around, and Manshak's got to make that money, so we got to cut all the departments in the city by 2 or 3%. I mean, holy crap.
Same thing. So the PGA said, "Oh no! If you're going over to hang out with this tour, we're taking your tour cards or whatever."
Yeah.
They got snippy about it. Look, I don't. Hey, they're their own business and a private company. If that's how they want to react, fine. I'm good with that too.
Well, talking about golf in Bossier City. So, how many people heard that there was the potential for a Top Golf to come to Bossier City, that somebody was trying to get it here? Have y'all heard that?
Well,
you heard it, Rex?
Maybe
you heard a whisper.
I've heard some whisper campaigns about it, and I want to say this too. Barry Butler says guns and alcohol don't mix well. Again, Barry, I agree. I don't mix guns and alcohol, but I will say this: alcohol and golf apparently mix well, because guess what you can do at Top Golf?
Apparently, but you can also have alcohol and watch horses run around a track too.
That's true. And just like you can have alcohol and watch cars make never-ending left-hand turns around a circle track for 3 or 4 hours.
David Womack says, "I'm a cowboy. What's a Top Golf?" David, we're gonna have to get you some culture, brother. I'm telling you, you're gonna have to come out of the country.
David, it's pasture pool. Okay.
Good one, Rex. Good one. So, Rex, as the story would go, so you know where Margaritaville is. Everybody know where Margaritaville is down there on the riverfront, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett's place down there.
Yeah, I really don't know if that's technically in Shreveport or Bossier. I think it's technically Bossier. You remember all that crap about the river and whatever. But the thing is does everybody know what was on the north side of that? Now, some of you guys and girls watching our show, y'all may be a little young and not long in the tooth, but a walk down memory lane would let you know that is where the old city dump was, the Bossier City dump.
Really? So let me get this straight for a little bit of a tangent here. Bossier City has put their sewer discharge, and again, it's not raw sewage, it's treated sewage, north on the river of the freshwater intake. And then we've got another one down on the south or Teague Parkway deal that discharges effluent or whatever it's technically called into the river. And then we also put a dump right there on the edge of the river.
Well, hold up a
I'm
minute
just
there.
making sure I'm
Ho-
correct.
ho- Hold up a minute. I mean, I don't know that the way you articulated it. I mean, that's almost like you're acting like a Republican the way you're talking. I mean,
I'm no
so
tree hugger, but I
I
fished and went tubing on the river last
I'm
weekend.
I'm pretty confident the city dump was put down there on the banks of the river where it's at before a water treatment facility was put in South Bossier and or even in North Bossier. And
Okay.
I'm also pretty sure that before they can release that in the water, it's supposed to be to the level of drinking it,
Well,
which
let
would
me.
explain some things for some of our Bossier City elected officials.
I would. When I see the Bossier City elected officials go down there with a red Solo cup and scoop some of that water up and drink it, I'll quit talking about this and quit mentioning it. But I'm just telling you, I've started fishing the Red River a little bit now and have actually so far enjoyed it. We did a big high school tournament down there and all that sort of thing. But I can just tell you, I wouldn't drink the water for nothing.
We could go so many places here. I mean, I'm thinking loggerheads and all this kind of stuff. Just you got my mind in the gutter, Rex. But
Look,
okay, let's get back to
I'm sorry.
Margaritaville.
Yeah,
Let's get
let's
back
get
to
back to top.
Margaritaville.
So they're going to
So
put
the
Top Golf on top of an old dump.
Well, no. Wait, hold up.
Okay.
No, there's no Top Golf so far. North of, I was
Is
giving
it
everybody a
is it putt
I'm,
putt golf?
I'm just giving no. He's a catch and release person, Holly Gordon. No, the north of the Margaritaville was the old city dump. So here's the problem with that. I mean, can you imagine how stable the ground is if you're going to build some structure on top of a landfill? Do you think it's going to be real stable?
Well, I don't
I
know.
mean,
They built that big tall Margaritaville on top of a whole bunch of sand and whatever. I mean, I'm sure they put plenty of fill dirt and
I mean,
whatever, but I'm no
good.
construction guy. But come on.
I mean, I hate to be putting out an idea here for Man Shack, but y'all guys, you want a study to last for the next 100 years? I mean, go get Tommy Chandler to plug you in to see what it would take to make the landfill stable. I mean, you'll be studying that crap for, I mean, I'll be dead and gone. But so there's only so many things you can do on an old previous landfill, right? Yes, David Womack, we know peers. But uh, there's only so many things that you can do, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of people kicked around some ideas and to do with that property up there. Well, interestingly, Margaritaville, this is what sources tell me, had a wonderful idea to promote Bossier City and to bring things into Bossier City and maybe try to, rejuvenate uh, the downtown a little bit. Margaritaville brought in a company called Big Shots to try to bring Top Golf down there to the riverfront next to
Now,
Margaritaville.
now is Big Shots one of those companies that tries to attract businesses like that, or is Big Shots, because that sounds like it could be a competitor to Top Golf?
Well, here's the thing: Big Shots, they backed out. Don't know the why, but Big Shots backed out. Margaritaville wasn't going to stop there, so they found another company. Another company was a company by the name of Chasing Aces, which my understanding is investors from around here locally. So Chasing Aces pursues it. They go to the city with a plan to make this thing happen down there on the river, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty sweet gig from what my sources are saying. And all of a sudden, after they put this proposal together and trying to make this thing happen, all of a sudden, Louisiana Downs jumps up, and guess what they want?
Top Golf.
They want a Top Golf out at Louisiana Downs now. Ain't no way you can have two in town, right? Ain't no way two can survive.
I don't know. They put how many casinos stacked together? But we've all seen how that turned out. Now, Top Golf down there by Louisiana Downs I'd be in favor of that. It's 5 minutes from me.
Well, yeah. I mean, geography wise, I could see how you would see that. I mean, but here's the thing: how is it that if if this Chasing Aces with Margaritaville came up with this idea to bring this Topgolf down there on the riverfront and something that could be developed on a landfill, which you can't, there's not a whole lot of uses for. They
Right.
bring it to the city, then all of a sudden Louisiana Downs jumps up and they're wanting it.
Do we have a
No.
couple of city councilmen fighting each other or what?
Well, here's my question. How did Louisiana Downs even know about it anyway?
Yeah, because this is supposed to be top super secret.
Yeah, top secret golf. How did Louisiana Downs know?
Well,
How did Louisiana Downs get the inside that, hey, you need to start vying to get a Topgolf out here? I'm wondering how that came to be.
you remember that whole liquor and alcohol thing we were talking about earlier?
We're going to get there.
Okay.
We're not done with this story. We're not even halfway with this story yet.
Okay.
So Louisiana Downs jumps up and they want to get them a Topgolf. So fast forward, and so let's connect some dots here. Allegedly that people can go out there and they can rent a suite and they can spend some time out there, and there's tons of elected officials and government employees that are out there staggering around and having them a good old time in those suites out there. I mean, have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that's a pretty common occurrence, and that if anybody wants to go out there and just sit back and watch, that it's pretty entertaining and a pretty good little show. I also heard that a certain mayor had a big birthday bash out there this weekend or this past weekend or something or another.
Really? Was it Perkins?
I don't think it was Perkins. I think Perkins
before
might
he
have
got
been-
his before he got mad.
Yeah, I mean, he I don't know that he comes across the river over here. It might have been Mayor Halton or Benton. I don't know. Who knows? But I'm just wondering, what's going on here, or is there anything going on here? Because sources also tell me that the mayor's office in Bossier and the city attorney's office are kind of dragging their feet on the deal with Chasing Aces, which was the original plan to come forward, and dragging their feet about getting that project moving forward. So I'm just wondering, is the city of Bossier putting their thumb on the original folks that brought this thing forward?
Look,
Are they trying to steer this to somebody else?
Let's
And
give
I'm
them
not
the benefit
saying
of
which
the
is
doubt.
best.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just simply a marketing thing. I mean, after all, Top Golf just sounds better.
Well, they would both be Topgolf.
Well, same company?
But no, I mean, the thing is you got one company came and wanted to put it down by the casinos in Margaritaville downtown, and then all of a sudden, somehow or another, Louisiana Downs finds out about it, jumps up. Now they don't want the Topgolf to go down there; they want it to come to Louisiana Downs, and now they're vying to get it.
Okay, so
I
was under the misunderstanding it was a different company going
No.
in. It was actually Top Golf, as in with a little trademark symbol behind it.
And now you got the city attorney and the mayor's office dragging the project down. It's not moving forward.
Surely
they're
Tommy's administration is not goofing something up, and I tried to say that with a nice word.
Putting their thumb on it. Oh,
we hadn't made fun of Tommy in a while, so here we go. Let's see. I'm gonna while you're dealing with that.
I just sent you something.
Okay.
I just sent you something hot off the presses that somebody just sent to me.
Text message
confirming one of the things that one of the sources had told me.
Oh, this thing with the flowers on it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't get one, but did you get one?
Why, heck no. Nobody ever sends me anything. Let's see. Hold on. Let me take a look at this, and we'll pull it up on the screen. This is a surprise deal too.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what are the factors that are weighing into slowing the project down on this thing? Right
Well,
there, Louisiana Downs Sky Room, 8,000 East Texas.
no, for the 108, 110 people that are watching them, we appreciate all of you. I just want to be clear that we just want to not let everybody know that there's a surprise birthday party. Oh, it's already happened a few days ago for Paula Chandler at, well, looky there, at the Louisiana Downs.
Come as you are, no gift needed. Your presence is your gift. RSVP
Past tense, because it was a few days ago.
741-8501. Isn't that the mayor's office?
Surely they didn't use the mayor's office with personal stuff.
The mayor's office using things for personal stuff? No, they wouldn't do that.
You know, I gotta say, so hold on a second. Let's switch gears for a second. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to circle back to Perkins for a second. So bear with me, folks. There is a method to this madness here. In Perkins' official statement that was released, his office, about the playing the race card, it came from a Shreveport government email address from the assistant communications director, Lyman Lasco McKellar, for something for his campaign. But this is just a birthday celebration, so, you know.
So I think, I may be mistaken, but I'm thinking Barbara, is that not, is that the secretary for the mayor? I mean, I'm pretty sure that phone number is the mayor's office. And if that, so, I mean, I hate to be a shrewd, but I mean,
Well,
are we
look.
using the mayor's office for surprise birthday parties? Is that where we're going with things?
Look, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a typo. They were copying and pasting, you know, and hurrying up while they were in the mayor's office creating this little flyer and handout. Maybe they forgot to change the phone number. Maybe it was an innocent mistake. Oh, wait a minute. To do that, they would have had to have been using mayor's office and administration resources.
Well, I'm just wondering, I want to throw my wife a surprise birthday party. Can I use the mayor's secretary and the office number to take the RSVPs and organize that?
If you think you can convince former amigo Tommy Chandler to let you do that, I want to see it. More power to you.
No. I'm just scratching my head here. But hey, let's get back to Louisiana Downs and Topgolf. So apparently the city has their finger on, you know, Bossier City being able to get a Topgolf. They're slowing
this Bossier Watch live
putting their thumb on, you know, progress in Bossier. And for what reasons? I'm just wondering, you know, what are the factors that could weigh on slowing this project down? What are the reasons? I sincerely would really like to know what those reasons are. But while we're at it, so Louisiana Downs jumps up and I mean, look, I can remember as a kid going down and watching, what was it? Was it Spectacular Bid run, you know, for the was it the Super Derby down there? I remember going down there to watch it when I was a kid. It was amazing. Yes, Kara, I did take a quick snack. Sorry. And you know, those were the good old days, and I want Louisiana Downs to prosper. I'm glad that investor is doing what he can, but you know, it shouldn't be that government officials are putting their finger on the scale to tip things one way or the other. And you know, it seems that may be the circumstance here. I don't know that, but we're going to be digging on it. And the public, y'all just needed to know kind of what's going on. But you know, the fact is that you've got business ventures that have been trying to get this done for a long time, and the cog in the wheel has been City Hall. And
imagine that.
And so the you know, Louisiana Downs wants it, and then all of a sudden we find out that, you know, gaming comes to Louisiana Downs. And did you hear about the missing millions?
Would it be the missing 2 million?
Oh yeah, the missing 2 million, and it just so happens to supposedly be at Louisiana Downs.
No way.
So when they in an effort they put gaming out at Louisiana Downs, and I think the way this story goes is that so much to be able to have gaming off track or off of the casino or the boats, to have it there at a land site or whatever, they had to, one of the deals at the Horseman Association or whatever they put in this deal, that so much of the gaming revenues would go into this fund to support the horse racing industry. Well,
Okay.
somehow or another, somebody's done figured out that this fund is maybe $2 million short.
Just 2 million? That's all.
That's it. Apparently, the Attorney General's office is involved, and I'm guessing you got CPAs and law firms all trying to figure out where this $2 million is. So we got money's missing out there, and you got problems going on out there. And you've got a developer that's been trying to put this Topgolf in on a city dump down there. And then you got City Hall that is said to be putting their finger on the scale. Now, I don't know, but something sure stinks to me, Rex.
Yeah, something doesn't seem to be quite right with all this. I don't know. The whole gambling thing. And look, I don't care if people gamble. I mean, I gamble, I guess you could say, on fishing tournaments, so to speak. Paying entry fees. I mean, it's not technically or legally gambling, but I never have wanted to go bet on a horse or whatever. But if that's what people like to do, hey, more power to them. I've just never understood all of these other laws and stupid things that are associated with it. Like the law that I guess it's still in effect. I don't know if it's been changed or not. That the boats actually had to make so many trips or excursions a year for so many hours. But, like if there were 2 clouds in the sky, they didn't have to actually take the excursions, but they have to fund an entire crew, including a captain, year round. I don't know. It just always seemed, well, dumb. And it's like the beef funds from the boats to support schools, but it's very limited in the scope of what you can do with the 50 million or whatever's in the beef fund now that can't be used. And now we've got $2 million for a horseman's purse fund from gambling that's supposed to be set aside for whatever that comes up missing, and we can't get Topgolf.
Yeah, well, maybe y'all can call City Hall and ask them what the problem is, and when will they allow Topgolf to come to Bossier? Maybe I don't know. maybe the only way it's going to happen is if it comes to the racetrack.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. JJ Lewis. Let's back up here for a second. JJ Lewis says, let's do a few comments. Says, if anyone has been paying attention, the future of growth is going to be centered around the new gate of Barksdale Air Force Base. Yeah, and JJ, maybe you're new to the show, but we've actually covered this topic several times. I'm sure we'll be covering some more. So, yeah, that will help growth. Our good friend David Womack says he has a small business. He takes a gamble every morning.
But JJ is overlooking a significant factor in that corridor. He is overlooking the fact that they have a major problem out there, right there at that Swan Lake.
Major problem at Swan Lake.
Yeah, I mean, he's overlooking the big problem. The big problem is the dogs barking out there.
Oh,
haven't you heard? Hadn't you heard about Red Rover?
Yeah, forgot about that. That's the dogs barking.
So, supposedly it's end of times out there with all the dogs barking out there. So much so that the city attorney has weighed in on the dogs barking out there.
Who cares about the B-52s that fly over low enough that you can see the color of their eyes sometimes? And I'm only being slightly facetious. Who cares about the Stratoforces, fortresses flying that low? But we got to worry about the dogs barking.
I mean, look, I get it. I get it. Them B-52s, it's just like a hornet flying around. But when them dogs go to yapping, I mean, that's it. You got to draw the line with them yapping dogs.
I support our military and the Air Force Base and all that good patriotic hoorah stuff just as much as the next person. But I'm just telling you, I don't know what do you call it, Barry Butler, if you're watching the lower deck that they're supposed to fly above or whatever it is, but I'm just telling you, they violate that on a regular basis over my house. Repeatedly. So
Look,
anyway, all right.
they're just trying to fly by and get a close up view of that first Bossier water tower over there that the mayor and King David bragged about at First Church up there on the stage during their campaigns to get reelected.
Forgot about that. And Kaylee Larkin just reminded me they're in Taiwan, so you're good direction. Interesting, Kaylee. I have noticed it's been much quieter the last few days now that you say that. And David Womack says, I saw a pilot's snuff can the other day. He was so low. See, I'm not the only person.
You whiners. Come on now.
Yeah. I know. You know, hey, they're just doing what they got to do. I get it. I like the B-52s. Hoorah. No, that's the Marines. I'm sorry. But anyway, whatever the Air Force says. All right. What else so that's pretty much hammered top golf into the deal. Shall we go ahead and start on the insurance reform? Because we've still got basically nearly, if we round up 3 people, we still got 100 people watching.
Yeah, I mean, how do y'all feel, guys? Are you up for a little insurance information? I mean, we've got the notes built and we got the information built, and maybe we'll give you just a taste of it. And because I think it's this is a long deal. It's there's a lot to the insurance reform in Louisiana, and it's boring and wonky to some extent. But of course, Rex has worked his magic to pull you some video to show you elected officials in their own words, and for you to make the decision, were they right? Were they wrong?
Yeah, so let me just kind of set this up real quick. The Caddo GOP sent out an email, and they had I think his official title is Insurance Commissioner of Insurance, whatever, Jim Donelon, I think at a luncheon today. And, you know, it got me to thinking and wondering about the insurance reform from 2018, 2019 and where we stood with that. And so I started going back in time. And because we had, back in 2019, we had former State Senator Ryan Gaddy at the Louisiana Republican Executive Committee meeting, the PEC meeting. And 1 month later, we had our good friend Seabiscuit, State Rep Alan Seabaugh, who came in to kind of refute and give his side of the insurance reform after Gaddy. And so I thought, you know what, it would be a good idea to start going back in time and let's review some of what was said and done back then and just start a dialogue and put together a series on insurance reform and insurance in the state of Louisiana. Now, full disclosure, I am no expert in insurance. Honestly, I've had State Farm since, you know, I could drive and pay my own insurance. My parents always have. I'm not plugging for State Farm. I'm a customer of theirs. I pay them a lot of money every month. But
I'm not either. I got my personal insurance, personal auto here. But as far as my trucking company, yeah, I can tell you, I had to move it out of the state because of insurance in Louisiana. Moved it to Oklahoma. Moved the company because of it.
And I don't have any concerns like that. You know, mine's vehicle insurance, boat insurance, etc. So I'm certainly no expert in it, but I want to start this off by asking the question of everybody in the audience. Has your insurance, generally speaking, has it increased or decreased or maybe even stayed the same in the last couple of 2 or 3, 4 years? As best you can kind of remember offhand, what is your insurance premiums, whether it's your auto, home, boat, you know, commercial insurance, whatever? What has it done in the state of Louisiana in the last couple of years? So just let us know in the comments. Increased, decreased, stayed the same, all over the map, you know, whatever. Let's see. Michael Ferris says, hey, Bossier, watch. Please consider a show which addresses the Bossier Parish Police Jury. Well, we've talked about them before, but we need to dig in a little more. So anyway, let us know. David Womack says personal, the same. So while we're giving people a few minutes to kind of chew on that, I'm going to switch screens again here, and let me kind of get my notes pulled up here. All right, so the first thing I want to show is this screenshot from the Caddo GOP announcement here. So, you know, a little shout out to our friends across the river over there. Let's see. Let me go to screenshots. Let's get rid of Paula Chandler's deal. Let's bring this up. David Bond says his is decreased. Okay. So this is the Caddo GOP luncheon announcement. This was for today, actually, okay, over at Superior Grill. And Louisiana Insurance Commissioner Jim Donald, it's not the first time they've had him as a speaker. And he's talking about here in the first paragraph, says, as if historic inflation rates and the lowest labor force participation rate since the Great Depression weren't enough, more than 40,000 homeowners are now looking for new insurance policies after an insurance company dropped them in July. Following similar moves by two other companies, Southern Fidelity canceled 42,000 policies in July, leaving Louisiana homeowners with 60 days to find new coverage. And so, anyway, if you scroll on down, here's the other thing. It says, to add insult to injury, car insurance rates are also going up in Louisiana. Again, this would be on average, with some drivers reporting hikes of up to 35% compared to the same coverage last year. Now, Donlin said, as drivers emerged from lockdown, the number of car accidents went up too. Well, then that should follow that during lockdown, accidents went down, and so we should have all seen a drastic decrease in our insurance premiums. I don't watch my month to month, honestly. I just pay the bill. But I don't remember it decreasing drastically during COVID, during lockdown. But anyway, so the question is, what's going on with insurance in our state? Why are rates continuing to rise, and what is being done to rein in those rates? So I think most of us would agree that on a general average, insurance has probably gone up overall. So Duke, why don't you kind of give us a quick rundown on the trucking insurance situation, and I'm going to kind of review some of the comments here, from your perspective. And you mentioned that you had to move out of state, kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on that.
Yeah, well, not a lot of folks are in the trucking industry, and a lot of people hate the trucking industry, but it's a necessary evil.
Well, sure.
And if you look, and especially when it comes to oil field service, if you guys are running up and down Benton Road getting sandblasted by all the sand off of the top of the trucks, which shouldn't be happening, that the DOT and the parish won't actively enforce, they'll go up there and rattle their saber a little bit, but they don't really put their finger on it. And the biggest problem comes from the Halliburton boxes. There, I said it. But the problem is, if you look at the majority of those trucks and trailers, they're not plated in Louisiana. Well, there's a reason why they're not plated in Louisiana. They're plated in other states because of insurance. And the companies that sell insurance in Louisiana, it's just not worth it. You can automatically go to Texas or Oklahoma or one of the other states, and you can automatically get a deduction on your insurance just right out of the gate. And there's a lot of companies that won't even write in Louisiana. I don't know what else to tell you. I was faced with our company with the exact same dilemma. The company that we were using was seeking quotes. They weren't getting a lot of quotes. And here we are, a company with no out of services, no DOT violations, a perfect CSA score. And it gets down to within a week of our insurance expiring, and they wait to the last minute and give you something that's you basically can't accept. It almost puts you out of business. It's either, so basically you're working for the insurance company or you're not working at all. And so, what we said? We said, you know what? Screw this. Enough of dealing with Louisiana. We moved our company out of the state. And it's the end of the story. We ain't looked back since.
I can't say that I blame you. And look, just, of course, this is anecdotal evidence, but when I moved back to Louisiana back in 2005, 2006, I think it was 2005, I was living in East Texas and had my insurance, again, through a State Farm agent over there. And I put it off as long as I legally could, transferring my insurance over to Louisiana, because it literally doubled. Same exact coverage. I've got, a near perfect driving record with State Farm since I've been driving, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Literally, it doubled. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So Anyway, and in the comments here, Richard Harville says Louisiana versus Texas, cross over to Texas, save 25%, same policy. We've had comments that I was putting up while you were talking. Most people, I would say the majority, said increase, but we had some people that said decrease or stayed the same. All right, so let's get into.
There's two comments, and let's get in. I'm gonna address these two comments, and then you take it off getting into it. Mike Cummins says they shouldn't be on the road. Yeah, Mike Cummins is right. So when you see these sandboxes, all of y'all going up and down Benton Road or Airline, and you see all this sand coming off the top of those sandboxes, just so you know, the DOT violation of that is an unsecured load. That's what that is. And they are not supposed to put that truck on the road without that stuff being cleaned off the top. But they don't do it because the sand plants and the trucks, sand plants don't want, and Halliburton, none of them want them getting on top of those boxes and sweeping all that sand off, because OSHA mandates that when you get above, I think it's 14 feet, you have to have fall protection. So they don't want them getting on top of it. So that's your why. So it's easier just to put it on the road and blow it off on your car, sandblasting your paint job on your car. It's a DOT violation. It's unsecured load. Call the sheriff's office. That's what I would tell you to do. They can be mad at me if they want. David Womack says trial lawyer uptick. Well, that's interesting, and that's a good segue into the rest of this, because that's one of the arguments that is the cause of your insurance going up. Is it because of the litigious state of Louisiana and our Napoleonic code? Is that actually it, Rex, or is it something else?
Well, let's dig into this and see. So again, the setup here is we're backing up in time, and we're going to start off going back to August, as a matter of fact, August the 28th of 2019, when State Rep Alice, I'll get it out here in a second. State Rep Alan Seaball, not Alice, Alan Seaball. Otherwise,
you mean Alan Seabiscuit? Right here, I got it on my hat as a prompt for you. Yeah. Seabiscuit,
affectionately known to us as Seabiscuit. He came to the Bossier Republican Executive Committee meeting about insurance reform, and what prompted him was the month prior we had as the PEC Ryan Gaddy come up and talk about the recent bill that was going through the House and the Senate down in Baton Rouge and all that, going through the legislature. Anyway, and so they were kind of in a tit for tat. All right, so let me pull up this video, and we'll just kind of get started going down the rabbit hole. We're not going to cover all of insurance reform tonight. That would be practically impossible, but we're going to get started down this rabbit hole.
I'll call Jack. Call Jack. We ain't doing all of it.
Yeah, we're not doing, well, every time I say that, we end up doing a marathon session, but we're not doing a marathon session tonight. So let me get my notes pulled up on my iPad screen here, and we'll get started down this rabbit hole here. Hold on just a second here. That way I can make sure that I try to kind of keep up with my notes. All right, so the first part of this, I've got some deals here. I'm just going to roll through a few seconds of this, kind of like we normally do. But this is Seaball talking about Gaddy being there at the meeting prior to this one. So here we go.
By the way, Senator Gaddy had a PowerPoint presentation and had stuff that he passed out. I didn't bring y'all any handouts, and I'm not quite as flashy. If you have any questions, stop me, raise your hand, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. If I make reference to a statistic or anything like that, and you want me to provide you documentation, let me know, ask me afterwards, interrupt me now, I'll write it down, I'll get it to you.
Okay. And this was a public meeting, so we actually had some members of the public here. So you'll hear, I'm going to get to a question in a little bit, used to live in Houghton, Jason Woolsey actually asked a question at one point. So you'll hear some of that. All right. And of course, Seaball assured us that he was not making up anything and all that. And so moving on up, here we go. So he says that we had, now this is 2019, but I would guess it we're probably close to the same. So that we had the second highest insurance rates, but the least affordable. So listen to this.
Interrupt me now, I'll write it down, I'll get it to you. Because I assure you I'm not making up anything, I can back up everything I'm saying. I didn't bring any of it with me. The issue is auto insurance reform. And the real question is, listen, before you can discuss whether we should fix it or whether the bill should have passed or what the bill was going to do, you have to look at where we are right now. We have the second highest auto insurance rates in the nation, but we have the least affordable insurance. And the reason I can make that distinction is that the state with the highest rates is Michigan, but their per capita income is so much higher than ours that ours is actually the least, that makes us the least affordable insurance. And
so not only are we second to the last, but then we're also basically dead last as far as affordability of insurance. Again, 2019, I'm sure it's probably pretty close to the same now. All right. So moving on up, here's another interesting quote. And folks, interestingly, I had this entire video posted on the Bossier Arpex Facebook page. I'm the one that shot and produced the video and posted it there. I went back to find it, and it's not posted on the Facebook page. Now, Gaddy's is still there, but I don't know where it went. So I've got a local copy of this because, like I said, I'm the one that shot the video and produced it.
Well, the Chinese took over the website. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that was the website.
Well,
maybe they got into Facebook too.
Maybe the Chinese took care of Seabiscuit's thing there. They didn't want him. Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, I may repost this under our Facebook page or under our YouTube feed. But anyway, if you want to watch the whole thing, in its entirety for full context as well. Okay. Anyway, so the next place that I'm going to jump up to is a couple of minutes into this, and Seabiscuit's talking about insurance company profits.
When you say high insurance rates, our insurance costs a lot. But the insurance companies, it's not like they're laughing all the way to the bank. The average profit on insurance companies in Louisiana, 7.7%. National average is 8.4%. So they're charging us more, and they're making less money here. And there's a reason for it. We're going to get to that.
Okay. So their profit margins are 7.7%. Now, in there, look, I don't have a MBA or anything like that, but isn't there a general rule that if you're not somewhere in the, is it over 13% area that you're pretty much going to go broke?
Well, I don't know. I don't have an MBA either. They didn't teach me that at Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville School.
Well, I don't see how they can survive on a, less than 8% margin, but whatever, maybe so. All right, so here we go. I'm going to jump up just a little bit and listen to this, and this is where we get into the billboard lawyers.
Insurance rates have gone up in Louisiana 52% since 2011. As rewind 8 years. What's different now in 8 years ago? The law is essentially the same. But think about the billboards and the billboard advertising loyalty. 8 years ago, we had Morris Barker, and that was bad. And you had a lot of local lawyers who do a pretty good job. The local lawyers really, I don't think, are the problem. The problems are the Dudley DeBosiers and the Gordon McKernans. I hope they're watching, guys.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there because our good friend David Womack brings up a good point, and so it's kind of a rhetorical question. But what does Alan Seaball, aka Seabiscuit, what type of lawyer is he? Because as you listen to this whole thing, and again, he did a good presentation, but as you listen to this whole thing, if you listen to it and go back through it a couple of times, which I did while I was editing the thing, all of a sudden you begin to realize, well, he sounds like an insurance company CEO standing there to a large extent.
An insurance company CEO?
Yeah.
That would,
or maybe a lawyer for some insurance companies. He's
that's
he's the lawyer your lawyer would be against if you had to go to court against the insurance company, basically. And Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I think he represents State Farm, and I have State Farm, so I guess that means he'd have to represent me.
He's on your side. You didn't even know it. I guess he'd be on my side too. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to jump up just a little bit more. So he's doesn't hold back. One thing about Seabiscuit, he doesn't really hold back much. So here he is talking about what he thought about Gaddy's presentation again a month prior, and we'll be covering some of that too in future episodes.
House Bill 372, frankly, was drafted to address the problem. I watched Senator Gaddy's presentation, and look, I don't want to make this all about Senator Gaddy, but if y'all saw his presentation, to be perfectly honest, it was about 70% completely unsupported conjecture, things that he just flat made up and said, what if? It was about 25% straight up bald-faced lies and about 5% factually accurate.
One thing about Seabiscuit, he doesn't say he misspoke or maybe he got his numbers wrong. He just said it was straight up 25% bald-faced lies. I got to give him credit for that, whether it's true or not.
Well, so this was when again? 2019, right?
2019, August the 28th. Yes.
Well, Gaddy was lying, according to him. I wonder. I don't think things went Gaddy's way. I mean, I'm wondering where that leaves us.
Did they go Seabiscuit's way? I would argue that most of us would say no. This didn't decrease the premiums, but okay. So let me go up here. There's one place that I really want us to hear. So he mentions that Gaddy was advocating for premium reform, and that's true. But here's one where he talks about credit scores in a DWI scenario, and then we'll get to a question from Jason Woolsey. So this is kind of interesting too. So let me play this.
In fact, Brian talked about credit score a lot. He gave an example of a guy with an 800 credit score and a DWI having cheaper insurance than a guy with a 400 credit score and a perfect driving record. I've run that scenario by about a dozen insurance agents and underwriters, and they all told me that's completely not true. I suspect that's something he made up. I'd like to see where those numbers came from, because he was just trying to make a point. Fact of the matter is, those things that they use are so that they looked at it and said, if you fit into that category, whatever it is, it's more expensive to insure you. And you're talking about credit score. Yes, if you have a low credit score, it doesn't mean you're a bad driver. But if you look at it actuarially across the country, when you're comparing individuals with a lower credit score are going to be more expensive to insure.
All right. Does that sound like a state rep that is looking out for your interests, or does that sound like he's a representative of insurance companies? Just, again, taking what he says on face value. I'm not saying that he's incorrect about what he's stating, that there are a lot of factors that go into insuring you. All right. You don't have to answer that.
Okay.
So here we go. About 2 seconds, we get a question. You're here off camera from Jason Woolsey. So actually, I'd forgotten this question was in there, but it's very interesting. Here we go.
They're more likely to make claims. They're more likely to make.
Yeah, like us, we currently have below average credit. Have been for 4 years. We have flawless driving records. My insurance here is probably almost 3 times what it was in North Texas. And it's due to, I'm going to guess, primarily because we have a low credit score. So that's something that we need to fix it, because I have no tickets, no wrecks, no claims, flawless.
I'm sure your credit score is part of it, because it is a factor that they look at, but your insurance would be at least twice as high as Texas generic, just because Louisiana is higher than Texas.
And one thing about it through all of this, he never is able to answer the question of why. I mean, he's literally an insider in the insurance industry.
But did I hear him correctly just say it's probably because of your credit score?
Then he did clarify that it's part of it. So he's not saying it's all, but here's what doesn't make sense about that. I'm gonna guess
how many people have had their credit score pulled for their insurance. I learned something.
Yeah, they do pull your credit score now. Yes, sir.
I don't know that they pulled my credit score to quote me insurance.
Well, are you checking with all 3 credit reporting agencies to see? Because
what am I going to do? Check my credit report and send it to them and say, "Oh, here's my credit"? No, I'm going to State Farm. They ain't never checked my credit rating to
that you know about.
There would be an inquiry on my credit report, and there's there's no inquiries on my credit report for that. I can tell you.
Okay. All right. Maybe not.
I mean,
And maybe they haven't because you, like me, you're a long-time policy holder.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we see credit reports. That's something that I deal with. I don't. I have no knowledge of credit reports being pulled for people's insurance.
Well,
I'm not saying that some insurance companies don't.
According to Gaddy, according to Seabaugh, everybody else that reported on it, that is part of it now. But here's the more interesting point right here that Alan pretty much just glosses over because I'm sure he just doesn't know the answer is. And I think he kind of alludes to that right there. But Woolsey's saying basically, hey, and I can attest when I moved back to Bossier 2005, 2006, my credit score was the same while I was in Texas as it was when I moved back. My insurance doubled. So what gives? And to say that, and maybe I'm sure it's the math, but to say that somebody with a lower credit score is necessarily a higher risk, I mean, come on. Because again, it's anecdotal evidence. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, he never wasn't able to address that. You would think that he would because, he did help try to push the legislation through Baton Rouge, and he's literally an insider on insurance. So Janet Lindsay says they do a soft pull, which wouldn't necessarily show up on your credit report. Hollywood Gordon says some do and some don't. All right. And here we go. Interesting. Paul Johnson says trial lawyers and insurance companies have a symbiotic relationship. Both make their living off the misfortune of the citizens of Louisiana. All right.
Way to go, Paul.
Yeah, very, very good quote. Okay, so I want to jump up to here, and this is an interesting point. And I made this point on the Bossier PEC's Facebook page back when I was on the PEC. That year in 2019, when all this was controversial and going on, State Farm actually lowered their rates 3 times that year before this HB 372, got killed in the committee and they went through all that hullabaloo. So listen to this right here.
An example, all right, Ryan talked a little bit about a particular insurance company that lowered rates last year after session. One of the largest insurer in Louisiana, State Farm, has lowered rates 3 times in the last 12 months. A total of like 13%, maybe, I don't remember the exact percentage. They've lowered rates. Each time you lower rates, you have to file papers with the insurance commissioner showing what you're bringing in premiums, what you're paying out, and all those other factors. State Farm shows that
listen to this. This is important.
In Louisiana. Overall, they're losing money, but lowering rates. And it seems counterintuitive. If they could just raise rates and get more money, then they would just raise rates, right? Well, no. The reason they wanted to lower rates is because they looked across the board and said, we've lost 100,000 insurers. One of the reasons they think they're losing money is they price themselves out of the market.
Stop. Did you just hear what he said?
Wow. Go ahead.
Now, he just said, we showed earlier, it was trial lawyers and, credit scores. But now he's saying, and State Farm backs this up in articles in their own statements, that they lost about 100,000 customers, realized they had basically started pricing themselves out of the market, and they arbitrarily submitted to the insurance commissioner, whatever that process is, and lowered their rates because they were losing customers. Didn't matter about, tort reform, didn't matter about credit scores. They arbitrarily decided to lower their rates, even to the point of them claiming they were losing money because they were too high. Let me back up just a few seconds here, and let's listen to that again. So I'm going to back us up just a little bit. Here we go again. Listen again, folks.
And it seems counterintuitive. If they could just raise rates and get more money, then they would just raise rates, right? Well, no. The reason they wanted to lower rates is because they looked across the board and said, we've lost 100,000 insurers. One of the reasons they think they're losing money is they price themselves out of the market. They did raise their rates too high. They lost people. So now they're trying to lower it to pick the market share back up.
Now, earlier he said they lowered it 13%.
Right.
So 13% got them lowering rates by 13%. That got them back into the market.
Well, I would argue if they're, let's just say, twice as high as Texas. So, if we actually do our percentages correctly, that's 200% higher than here. Okay, twice is two times. That's 200%. If they lowered it 30%, then there's or 13%, then they're still 187% higher than Texas. Again, saying they're twice as high here as in Texas for easy math. So they're coming down a little bit, but maybe they're still not in the ballpark. But again, I'm going to reemphasize they, their rate, they figured out that their rates were too high. We're losing people. Let's drop them down before more competition comes in. All right. So here's the deal. I don't want to spend, because we're already at 9 o'clock. Honestly, we could sit here for the next couple of hours going through this. I mean, this whole presentation has about 60 more minutes left in it. So I'm going to kind of stop us here on that note. All right, because it's a good one to remember. And we're going to continue on and probably spend, let's say, 10 or 15 minutes for the next several weeks in each episode, going a little further and a little further into Alan's presentation and into Gaddy's presentation, and reviewing articles and some of the other facts around insurance in the last couple of years, as well as feedback from the viewers. Because I need to get educated a little more in the insurance industry. I'm sure you might want to as well. And some of our other viewers. Not that we're going to be able to solve this, but maybe by the end of going through a lot of this, we'll have a little better insight into it. We'll see where Gaddy was right, where Gaddy was wrong, where Seaball was right, where Seaball's wrong, because they're opposite ends of the spectrum on this for the most part, and basically mortal enemies. Like Alan says later in this, he hopes Gaddy did commit political suicide by killing the bill. And we all know how that turned out. So anyway, any questions that y'all have, folks, about insurance, submit them in the comments or whatever. Shoot us an email to bozierwatch@gmail.com, or if you want to keep it private, make your Proton Mail account, no identifying information. Send an email to bozierwatch@Proton Mail, again, or comment. We'll try to keep track of that and address it as much as we can, realizing we are certainly not insurance experts, but it is a subject that affects literally all of us.
Yeah, and for everyone that's been watching and hanging in there, I mean, we're still sitting at I see around 70 people watching. We thank you all for tuning in and giving us your time, and hopefully we have contributed a little bit to you. A couple of house cleaning things. Wanted to remind you, there's a case going to be heard at Benton in the morning. The Cypress District versus the Halls, and I think it would be good to have the public there to view it, pay attention, and show a little bit of support. There's some shenanigans going on out there, and I think that it's time the public starts showing an interest in some of these things.
Yeah, like we said earlier, the Cypress District is definitely not off of our radar. We've just kind of, let's just say, tucked some of the stuff into a box for a little while. And we'll be spending more time talking about the Cypress District in future episodes. And hey, anything else you folks want us to look into or talk about, like I said earlier, send us an email to bozierwatch@gmail.com, or if it's something that you want to stay anonymous about, make a free Proton Mail account. It's completely anonymous. Don't use any identifying information. We won't know who it comes from. And we do read those, and we will start digging into them. It's basically just me and Duke. So sometimes it takes us a little while to figure out stuff. And if it's got merit, though, we'll talk about it. And what else have we got?
Well, I would say that, we got a little bit of information about the police department in Bossier City this past week.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah, and what I would say is that, trying to vet some of that stuff, you learn that there's, it's kind of like the Transformers, more than meets the eye. There's more to a story than what just comes in a letter. So, again, we appreciate the information sent, but sometimes everybody doesn't have all of the facts of the case, and they don't have all of the information. And we would urge people that if you've got facts to support the charges of the accusations, send it, because if you don't send it, we're going to study it and we're going to try to, get the facts. And that's that. I'll leave it right there.
Yeah, if the facts aren't what we consider story worthy, on Bossier Watch, then we'll mention it in passing, and that's about it. But if there's something to it, we'll absolutely dig further, and then put it out there and put our spin on it. Speaking of that, would also like to thank, I'm not going to mention name, but we did have a donation come in after last week's show, so that helps out a little bit with the software and coffee money, and we appreciate that. If
awesome.
You would like,
thank you.
Yeah, if you would like to donate to us, whatever amount, go to BossierWatch.org. There's a donation button there. Click there. It's not an anonymous donation, but it is secure, as far as being a secure website credit card deal. We never see your credit card, actual credit card information. So anyway, we do appreciate that. It takes money and lots of time doing this, but hey, it is a lot of fun and we enjoy doing it. So whether we get coffee money or not, we are going to keep on watching out for Bossier.
And one more little thing, Rex, we are coordinating with a couple of folks, a couple of groups about a pretty big deal, I think. As a lot of folks know, we've done some debates in the past. We've moderated the debates, televised them and moderated them, and they all went really well.
Yeah.
And from everyone that we got feedback on, they gleaned a lot of information off of it. And we are working with a couple of groups to maybe do another major debate here in the next coming month or so, right?
Yes, and of course, with the groups we would be working with, that'll make it fun, of course, and enjoyable. And yeah, like you said, it was fun doing we did a Bessie debate and a, District 1 City Council debate. And, we stayed pretty much neutral throughout it. We didn't put our spin in the middle of the debate and all that sort of thing because, we wanted to give everybody a fair shot in it. So, yeah, if we were able to put this potential debate coming up, put that together with these other groups, then we would treat it the same way. We want to give all the candidates, whether we agree with them or not, a fair shot.
Absolutely. And how do you do that? You do that in the structure of the debate. And for those that may not, you can go back through our shows and you can see those debates. But how we did it was we actually had the candidates submit the questions. It wasn't us that submitted the questions, because our thoughts on it is who best in a political race knows what questions to ask of their opponents.
Right.
And so the structure of our debate is that we get the candidates to submit the questions, and all we do is basically moderate it. That's it. And we let them duke it out.
Yep. And like I said, the first two we've done were lots of fun. If we're able to put this next one together, I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun as well, and hopefully everybody will learn something from it.
Well, that's all I have for tonight myself, Rex, and thanks everybody for watching, and until next week, I guess, sayonara.
Yeah, until we meet again, we'll see you, next Tuesday.
Good night.
Good night. See y'all later, folks.